Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted deeply? Maybe a close friend shared your secrets. Maybe a family member turned against you when you needed them most. Or maybe an employer you gave your loyalty to ended up discarding you like you never mattered. Betrayal leaves a sting, unlike almost anything else. It shakes your sense of trust, your foundation, and even your confidence in yourself. And yet, here's a thought. What if the ones who betrayed you are not free? What if they're actually haunted by their own actions in ways you cannot see? That's what I want to talk about today. Betrayal, conscience, and the way hidden guilt shapes the lives of those who hurt us. And along the way, I want to connect this to ideas in psychology, culture, and our everyday lives. The nature of betrayal. Betrayal is different from ordinary conflict. If a stranger insults you, it stings, but you recover quickly. If your spouse, your best friend, or your business partner, the people closest to you, go against you, it cuts deep, because betrayal thrives on intimacy. At its core, betrayal is the breaking of trust. Trust is fragile because it is invisible. You can't touch or measure it like money, but it holds relationships together more tightly than any contract. That's why when betrayal occurs, the damage is not just about the specific lie or disloyal act. It's about the shattering of that invisible thread. But here's the interesting part. When someone betrays you, their act is not only an attack on you, it's also an attack on themselves. The secret weight of betrayal. Most people think betrayal is effective. The betrayer wins something, maybe short-term gain, power, status, or advantage. But over time, those who betray carry something much darker, a heavy secret that gnaws at them. Psychology has long shown us that the human conscience is hard to silence. Even people who justify their actions with excuses tend to feel flashes of shame. These flashes may be buried under layers of rationalization, but they tend to come back at night, in silence, in dreams, and unexpected guilt. Think about the last time you lied, even about something small. Chances are, it lingered in your mind, bothering you more than it should. Now magnify that tenfold for betrayal, where the stakes aren't small but enormous. Loyalty, trust, intimacy. If even a small lie can disturb your peace, betrayal is like a shadow that the betrayer cannot outrun. In myth, we see this everywhere. Judas in the Christian story betrays with a kiss. He receives silver in return, but it becomes unbearable. In fact, one of the oldest lessons across religions and cultures is that betrayal is cursed not just by others, but by the betrayer's own conscience. Here's the truth. Those who betray you live in a kind of prison, even if you never see it. Let me break down 3 reasons why. Conscience is not optional. Humans are wired with an inner voice, a sense of right and wrong. Some people numb it, but they don't erase it. Betrayal sharpens that inner conflict because it's not just a casual mistake, it's a violation of something sacred. Relationships collapse under dishonesty. Betrayal might give short-term gain, but long-term, it erodes the betrayer's network of trust. If someone betrayed you once, chances are they'll eventually feel compelled to betray others or will be suspected of it. Trust, once broken, casts a shadow that spreads. They carry the secret. You move forward, even wounded, but the betrayer carries a secret life. They know what they did. They try to hide it, but the act of hiding wears them down. Secrets act like ghosts. They whisper in the back of the mind, reminding the person that they are not whole. That's why, in a very real sense, those who betrayed you are haunted by their own actions. They don't live in freedom. They live in vigilance, in paranoia, in shame, even if they disguise it with smiles and success. Everyday life example. Let's make this less abstract. Imagine a workplace scenario. You trust a colleague with an idea you've been developing. Weeks later, your manager praises this colleague for presenting your idea. You feel crushed. Betrayal always feels personal because it is. But now think about your colleague. Even if they get away with it temporarily, how do they continue? They must keep justifying themselves, telling others half-truths, avoiding direct confrontation, fearing discovery. And even if nobody exposes them, they know they did not earn that achievement with integrity. That guilt doesn't go away.
It shows up in anxiety, in stress, in the inability to sleep well at night. They might try to bury it with distractions, but in quiet moments, it returns. That haunting is inevitable because betrayal plants a seed inside the betrayer, a seed of corruption, and it grows silently. Analytical comparison, psychology and guilt. In psychology, Carl Jung often wrote about the shadow, the part of ourselves that contains the impulses, actions, and thoughts we repress or deny. A betrayal is the kind of act that strengthens the shadow within the betrayer. If it's never confronted, the shadow becomes heavier and more dangerous. Jordan Peterson's work connects here because he often stresses that truth is not optional. It's the foundation of stability. When someone betrays, they align themselves with falsehood. Living in lies deforms the soul. The psyche becomes restless because it's forced to carry something it knows is rotten. That's why cultures across history develop rituals of confession, redemption, and forgiveness, because without them, people are haunted endlessly. When you link these ideas together, you realize something profound. Even if you never confront your betrayer, reality itself confronts them. Their own psyche becomes the battlefield. Personal reflection. I've seen this happen in real life, not just in theory. I once knew someone who betrayed a group of close friends for personal gain. At first, they seemed successful and unbothered. Years later, when I ran into them again, they looked like a completely different person. Tired, anxious, and strangely defensive. They admitted, almost awkwardly, that they often thought about the old times. I realized they weren't reminiscing. They were haunted. That encounter shaped how I view betrayal. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it can make us bitter if we're not careful. But now I understand that betrayal is never free for the betrayer. They might deceive others, but they cannot run from their own conscience forever.
Healing after betrayal, the survivor's journey. Betrayal leaves a psychological wound that is often deeper than we realize. For those who have been betrayed, the path to recovery will likely be one of ups and downs, but it is possible to move from pain and shock to a place of strength and even growth. Immediate impact, emotional fallout. The first stage after a betrayal is often raw, intense, and confusing. Many people experience shock, grief, or even physical symptoms, racing heart, sleepless nights, nausea. The brain rewires itself to become hypervigilant. This is not just emotional, it's physiological, with stress hormones like cortisol dropping out of balance and the nervous system thrown into overdrive. Some people shut down emotionally, using numbness as a kind of shield. Others may replay the event countless times, asking themselves what they missed or blaming themselves for what happened. It's a deeply personal journey, often filled with anger, sorrow, and endless questions. The longer-term struggle. The months following a betrayal can feel like a fog. Everyday experiences, like meeting new people, trusting a coworker, or sharing personal thoughts, become harder. There is often a fear of vulnerability, a defense mechanism the mind uses to prevent further hurt. Trust is not just broken in the relationship where betrayal happened, it can erode confidence in forming new relationships too, leading to isolation or skepticism. Some survivors avoid relationships altogether, worried that pain is just around the corner. Personal perspective, the turning point. I've noticed the hardest part of healing isn't just forgiving the betrayer, it's accepting what happened without letting it define your sense of self. At the height of the struggle, many people, myself included, felt as if broken trust would never return. In my experience, the change began when I stopped demanding answers for why the betrayal happened and instead focused on reclaiming my own life step by step. Evidence-based healing strategies. The good news is that healing is possible. Modern psychology and therapy offer multiple ways to cope and recover. Mindfulness techniques help with emotional regulation and reduce anxiety and depression. Simple practices like deep breathing, focusing on sensory experiences, and gentle movement
work well for many survivors of betrayal trauma. Building supportive relationships is key. Talking to a therapist, joining support groups, or simply leaning on friends can help with validation in the long process of trust reconstruction. Body-based coping tools like grounding exercises, feet on the ground, slow breaths, noticing sights and sounds help anchor feelings and keep overwhelming emotions in check. Self-care is crucial. Whether it's better sleep, good nutrition, or exercise, meeting basic physical needs helps the mind start to heal. With patience and the right support, emotional wounds transform. I've seen people who came out of deep betrayal feeling stronger, wiser, and even grateful for the growth it triggered, even though the journey was rough. Analytical perspective, psychology, shadow, and post-traumatic growth. Let's step back. Why does betrayal hurt so much? Carl Jung's work suggests that betrayal activates deep complexes, emotional patterns linked to our earliest memories and ancestral wounds. The pain seems bigger than the event because it echoes old fears, exclusion, abandonment, humiliation. There is also an opportunity for growth. Psychologists call this post-traumatic growth, where pain leads to deeper insight, better boundaries, and new possibilities. People who face betrayal, if they do the inner work, often emerge with greater empathy and self-awareness, a higher value placed on honest relationships, and clearer boundaries. It's important to recognize one hard truth. Healing after betrayal is not about forgetting. Both the betrayed and the betrayer keep the memory alive, but the survivor has the chance to transform suffering into wisdom and compassion. Cultural comparison, from victimhood to growth. Across cultures, rituals of confession and forgiveness are tied to betrayal. Western psychology now validates what ancient wisdom always taught. Facing pain directly, rather than repressing it, allows us to heal and even flourish. In my personal view, choosing to confront betrayal head-on with honesty and a willingness to grow has given me the best chance to move forward. I'm not saying the scars disappear, but they become reminders of strength, not weakness. The antagonist in the story, the one who betrayed, might live with their own haunting, but the survivor, with time and intention, can move towards freedom and self-respect.
Society's view, the judgment of betrayal. Betrayal isn't just a personal wound, it's also a social offense. That's why stories of betrayal loom so large in our culture. Folklore, movies, religious tales, and everyday gossip. Across countries and centuries, the act of betrayal triggers both outrage and fascination. Society is mostly unforgiving of betrayers. In some cases, they're ostracized or even punished outright. Think about famous stories: Brutus and Caesar, Judas and Jesus, Anakin and Obi-Wan. These figures become cautionary tales, examples of how betrayers are never truly celebrated, even if they achieve something in the short run. Instead, their stories are marked by a shadow, a sense of loss, regret, and isolation. It's interesting how the role of betrayal is also tied to ideas of justice and morality. Many cultures create rituals, laws, or even ceremonies designed to restore the social balance after trust has been broken. In my perspective, those acts serve both to protect the community and to remind everyone of the cost of betrayal, not just to the victim, but to the person who crossed the line. The betrayer's fate, haunted shadows, and lasting consequences. We rarely hear about the long-term life of betrayers. Most people only focus on the initial act, what was lost, who was hurt. But as explored earlier, the betrayer often faces unseen consequences that can last for years or even decades. What kind of consequences? Persistent anxiety and paranoia, especially fear of being discovered or betrayed in turn. Relationship failures, since others eventually sense the lack of trustworthiness. difficulty forming close emotional bonds, which leads to isolation, even if the person is surrounded by people. The need to justify or excuse their actions, which can distort the way they see themselves and others. From a personal perspective, the most poignant consequence is this: betrayers live with a fracture in their own identity. They carry secrets and self-doubt that very few others can see. That burden doesn't disappear, it simply gets heavier over time. Conclusion: reflection, question, and call to action. So where does this leave us? Betrayal is a powerful force that harms both the victim and, ironically, the perpetrator. Those who betray may think they've gained something, but the hidden cost is often greater in guilt, secrecy, and the loss of genuine relationships. If you're recovering from betrayal, your focus should be on growth, not revenge. Healing means breaking free from the past and reclaiming your sense of dignity. And for those who have betrayed, the only true escape is honesty and accountability. Otherwise, their secrets will always haunt them, shaping their lives in ways they may never fully understand. Now, I want to turn this over to you. Have you ever experienced betrayal that changed your life? And if so, did you notice how the person who betrayed you was haunted by their actions, even indirectly? Do you believe it's possible for betrayers to truly find peace without facing what they've done? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If this topic spoke to you or helped you see things in a new light, please like this video, subscribe for more deep dives, and share it with anyone who might need to hear these words. Thank you for listening. Your voice matters here.